Hello. Can everybody hear me okay? Good, I seem to be live. So welcome everybody. We are going to be talking about automated vehicles and connected vehicles. What is the road ahead? I think this is going to be a fascinating session because there are so many unanswered questions that I hope that all our panelists are going to be able to contribute to. Are we looking at the automated vehicle here now? What does that mean? Are they the immediate future, or do we have a lot more work to do? Do governments know how to regulate this technology? There's going to have to be all sorts of kind of interesting partnerships between public and private sectors. Who takes responsibility for what? These are all questions that are going to be unfolding as we go forward with this. So while we have a lot of questions to answer, we're also very excited by the technology, and I think we're going to see some of that today, what is actually possible in this urban mobility, this automated urban mobility of the future. So we'll get going very shortly with the first session, but first of all, I just wanted to let you all know that there's a smart city app on which you can post questions. You can also post questions, but you can also like the questions that you would like most to be asked, so which your favorite questions when you see them come up. All you need to do is you need to download the Smart City app at smartcityexpo.com. And then just along the bottom, you'll see an ask and vote emoji. You just hit that, and you'll see the mobility room is yellow, so it's very easy to access. So then you can just write a question that we'll discuss later on, or you can like some of the questions that come up. Now, what we're going to do next is we're going to have a couple of interview sessions, which I'm going to moderate. What we'll do is we'll hold questions from the audience until those two are finished, and I'll get both of the speakers back up onto the stage, and then we'll do the Q&A that way. So in the meantime, I would like to invite onto the stage Wojtek, and come and join us. We'll get going. Wojtek is Senior Business Development Manager at a very exciting new company called Volocopter. He's going to get us all going up in the air, which is great. And I will leave it over to you.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Can everybody hear me? Yes, that's good. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, it's really a pleasure for me to be here today to give you some further background information on Volocopter, what we are doing currently. And I would like to kick this off with an announcement that we had a few weeks ago, because everybody's thinking when we are talking about air taxis, this is a dream or something like that. But it's not, as we announced a few weeks ago, that we will operate testing flights in Singapore in 2019. In the second half of 2019, there will be several testing flights, and there will be also a demonstration flight at the end of 2019 above the urban area of Singapore. So this will be really cool. And we have agreed on this with a lot of authorities like Ministry of Transportation, Civil Aviation Authority, and others. So this is going to be really cool and the next milestone for us. But what we are talking about, we would like to implement air taxi services globally. But what is the reason we are trying to do so? Because we know that urbanization today is around 50% of all people are living in big cities. In 2015, this will increase up to 70%. So what we believe is that the miles traveled will soar dramatically, and autonomous driving will not solve the problem on its own. There will be more transportation means needed to serve this problem. Just to show off probably also, because we are here in Barcelona today, what an air taxi service like Volocopter is able to do. We are talking about urban areas, that's true. But if we are having a range of 20 kilometers, for example, and the actual range of Volocopter is 30, so we are just showing off 20 kilometers, we are able to cover a size of more than 1,200 square kilometers. So that's a really huge size, with point-to-point connections, of course. But as you can see in the inner city and also around the city, there are a lot of traffic jams going on. So probably this service could help a bit to solve the traffic jam problem. As you can see as well on this slide, you have on average 30 minutes per day extra travel time in Barcelona. In other cities, it's even more. And this is just on average. So if you are talking about the peaks in the morning and in the evening, it's even more where you're standing in a traffic jam and you're not driving. So air taxi services could help to solve this problem as well. What we believe is, of course, that the air taxi service in future will be on-demand, shared, and autonomous. What's true for right now is we will not start autonomous flying. We will start piloted. So this will be manned flights first. But of course, the vision and the strategic goal is to fly autonomously. What we have seen in the past and what we see right now is that when we started in 2010 or 2011, there were just a few companies who were talking about air taxi services in future and started developing those. But as you can see, after a while, it was popping up. It was like the same in car sharing. My former job was at Car2Go, a car sharing company. It was the same. In 2008, there were just a few companies who were just doing this, and after a while, you know, you can face it in every bigger city. There are a lot of car sharing companies as well. This will be very similar with air taxi services as well. A lot of bigger companies are working on this, and smaller as well. So that's not only a dream. This is what I want to show off. That not only we are talking about air taxi service, there are a lot of other companies as well who are doing the same business. This is a small overview how we started in 2011, and what I would like to show off are a few clips so that you can see how we started in 2011 with the first manned flight and what happened afterwards. So here you can see the proof of concept in 2011. It looks really a bit curious, I know, but it was a big milestone for us and a big milestone in eVTOL history, I would even say. So this was the third manned flight in 2011, and now you can see in 2016, so 5 years later, this was our first version of a Volocopter, where Alex Tosel is flying, a co-founder of us, even without using his hands. And it works. It works well. It's stable, and it's very safe. And this is what we also showed off in Dubai in 2017, so 1 year ago. There was a long period of preparation for us, but at the end, we were able to show off that we are able to fly autonomously. So this was not a piloted flight, not remote controlled. It was autonomous. And we fly it above Dubai. So what's today? This year, we are facing a really important milestone as well, because we applied for the certification of EASA, which is very important to commercialize this product as well. So in 2018, this year, we applied. We know that this will take a while, but we are preparing everything. So what's our role currently? Of course, beside all the technical development that we are doing, because we are preparing the next generation of a Volocopter, we started talking to partners. We started talking to potential cities where we could implement this service. We started talking to different other companies, strategic partners that could help us in bringing air taxi services and making it real, bringing it into the cities. So we are searching for cooperation partners currently, and so that's what I would like to give you. If there are any interested companies to take up a contact to us, we are very open to any discussion, so please do so. Some aspects of a Volocopter interesting and very interesting to share also are that that's a very safe vehicle, air taxi vehicle. It's very simple to fly. As you have seen in the video as well, you can fly it with one hand. You don't need anything else. You don't need your feet like in a helicopter. And it's like, you know, just with one joystick. It's very cost effective because it's electric, fully electric. And of course, noise is a real good thing because we are not that noisy. Because it's electric and we have 18 Volocopters on the above, on the top. As we believe that there will be a lot of companies who will try to get into this business as well, we ourselves are focusing on a special urban mission. We are not talking about short-haul missions between cities, like connecting city with city. We are only focusing on urban missions, so flights within a city, within the urban area of a city. That's why a range of 30 kilometers, for example, is enough. We do not have to work on longer ranges. And this is how it could look like in the future. We will start, I'm sure that we will start with point-to-point connections from A to B. This will be the beginning. But after a while, a network of connections will be real, I guess. And this is something which we'll have to develop, but that's the future. To give you just a short overview, because I landed here yesterday on the airport of Prat, and I had to drive at 8 o'clock in the evening with a taxi to the inner city. It still took me some time. So there was a small traffic jam, but I believe that during the peaks there is a lot of cars on the road. So if you drive by car normally, it takes like almost an hour during the peaks. If you would take a Volocopter, for example, for a distance of 17 kilometers, I guess, then it's only 15 minutes. Just to give you a feeling that there is really a time reason to put in those air taxi services into a city as well. And we are not only thinking about how we could do it for a few passengers. We are already thinking about what is the capacity, what is the potential within such a market. And what we are planning to do is, for example, developing such Voloports, Volohubs, which will create a situation that we will be able to reach almost 10,000 customers per day within such a Volohub. We will be able to operate with 10,000 customers per day per hub. So that's going to be a huge business, and this is how it could look like in future. That was it, because I was always also asked to run a bit faster through the presentation to have more time for question and answers afterwards. I planned 20 minutes, but I guess it's 10. So yes, thank you very much for your attention. I'm really open to any question that you will have, and I'm glad to be here. Thank you very much.
I think they're going to bring us some chairs. Oh, Wojtek, stay on the stage. We're going to have a quick question, Q&A. Thank you, that was great.
Thanks.
And I'm going to ask, we haven't got much time, but I'm going to ask just a couple of questions in follow-up. My basic question is a rather stupid one. To me, they look like a mini helicopter. What are the technologies and what are the basic differences between this and a tiny helicopter? Okay.
The main differences are that we are fully electric, so there is no congestion. We are CO2 emission-free. That's one of the main differences. We will fly autonomously, and the noise is a huge difference, because if you use a helicopter within a city, it's quite loud. And if you use a Volocopter within a city, it's really a huge difference.
But is the flying technology different, the engineering?
Yes, of course. It is different, because you have, for example, within a helicopter, you have just one copter on the top. We have 18. Wow. So that means also what I mentioned was that we are stable in the air. If there's less redundancy, that's a huge difference.
Right, right. I'm also interested in, you mentioned the scalability side of things. I mean, what I'm seeing in your presentation is am I right in thinking there's just one person in this machine, is that right? How many people can go in an individual vehicle?
The current version is planned for 2 people.
Right.
So when we will start flying, for example, there will be 1 pilot and 1 passenger. But of course, that's nothing new. And that we are, of course, working on bigger versions as well. But this is the current version we are planning to fly.
What might the future look like? I mean, are we looking at sort of 20 people going in one of these things?
I don't think so.
No.
I don't think so.
Okay,
Because this is a you know, a weight issue.
Right, right.
If you have 20 people, I mean, we still have 18 copters on the top. If you have 20 people within such a vehicle, I guess it should be 180 copters on the top, so it will look totally different. I don't think that that's real.
Okay, okay. So then I guess the question is, you know, in terms of sort of solving our congestion problems, are we not just putting single drivers from the ground as single drivers into the air?
No, I don't think so. Because, you know, this will be, of course, it will be autonomous in the future. It's fully electric, so this will be also the difference. And as I have seen within the car sharing business as well, we've been talking to a lot of authorities, city authorities, what we are doing currently as well with Volocopter. And that's like car sharing and scooters and every other means of transportation. We need to support public transport. And I guess that car sharing, scooters, whatever, bike sharing, and also an air taxi service could be very supportive to add something new to the conservative way of transportation.
So this wouldn't be something where you own your own Volocopter, it would be a public service, would it? Or a privately run public service?
Yes, we are thinking about a public service, yes. And of course, it could be also a solution that we will sell 1 Volocopter to a private person once. But first of all, we would like to operate as an air taxi service in the public area.
Yeah. Well, so obviously there are the technical challenges, and the technology is one side of it, the engineering. The other big question is regulation. How do we stop the air just being full of Volocopter crashes? You know, who are you working with in terms of the city authorities to make this happen?
We are working on a brighter level, I guess. We are talking to the EASA in Europe, for example. How it's exactly this question: how could a regulation look like? Because we are talking about lower airspace. We are not talking about flights above 500 feet. We are talking about something in between, and that's totally new, because it's not existing yet. So this is something we have now to work on with the EASA as well, how to regulate this airspace.
Yeah, yeah. And different cities will have their own regulations on that, will they?
Can be. I don't know.
Yeah.
Probably yes, but like we are talking to Dubai, sure that there are different visions. Dubai has probably another vision than Singapore or another city, or LA or New York.
Yeah.
So the solutions could be different for each city, but in general we have to define the airspace. That's important.
Right. Does this have application in rural areas?
In what?
In the country, in rural areas, not in sort of farmland or mountains, or
Okay.
is it just an urban solution at this stage?
I don't think so. At this stage, yes, I would say. This would be the starting point, urban areas. But we are working on a lot of projects as well to serve different other issues that we have ongoing. I cannot tell that too much, but there are a lot of projects going on, and probably this could be also a solution for areas which are not that populated.
Right, which currently aren't served by maybe any transportation.
Exactly, medicine, whatever, medical reasons, medical transportation. We are talking about a lot of things. So, of course, this could be also a solution for different other use cases.
Right, right. My last question is, what about sort of inclusivity and affordability? How expensive will this be? Will this be just something for people who might have been the people on the ground in very expensive cars, or will it be your regular bus taker who could use it?
Our co-founder, Alex Tozo, which we have seen in the video, he just mentioned last days that in future this will be as expensive as a taxi drive. what he was talking about probably was this will be in 10 or 15 or 20 years' time. I do believe that this will be more expensive at the beginning, but as it's, when the scalability is there, when there are a lot of users, then the price also goes down. So this is the market, and so I believe this will not be that expensive for a long time. We will start, of course. This will be a very exclusive thing, I guess. But after a while, we would like to be a part of the public transportation as well.
Right. Okay. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. We're going to move on to the next panel now, but you will have room for questions at the end of this session, so keep putting them into the app.
Thank you.
Thank you. So Joan Prat is our next speaker. I'd like to welcome him up onto the stage, and we'll get going with the next session.
Thank you, Sarah.
And you're going to talk for a little, yeah.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much, Sarah. Thanks to Smart City to invite us. I'm very glad to be here and welcome everybody here in our little country. I will explain our experience in that a tour with a first autonomous bus here in Catalonia. We are, first of all, I will explain you that we are a little association with 101 municipalities associated around all our country, and then we decide to be the third country in the world. First of all was in the United States and then in Australia, into that, a tour with a little autonomous bus around 8 cities. The project had three principal objectives. First of all, that our municipalities, our governments know that this is not future. The autonomous buses, the autonomous vehicles is not the future. We have it and we can work with them right now. And it's necessary that we prepare our cities to develop and to can the vehicle run around all our streets. Then the second objective was that our citizens know that this technology, it seems possible. And our surprise was that we make the tour, the citizens thought that these things only happen in the United States. And our surprise was that the citizens are very glad to know that this is possible right now. And the third last project, the objective, was that to remain our partnership with private companies, our private buses companies, that they know that this it's very near, and it's necessary to work with it. When we decide the project, then it was necessary a vehicle and give a name to the project, and we decide call it the bus the name of Erica. It corresponds the E of electric, revolutionary. That it means that the autonomous vehicles will change. Not only the vehicles, the autonomous vehicles will change the concept, the mobility concept, because then we can talk about flexible transport, but it will be the last step of the flexible transport. The autonomous vehicles and the flexible transport will change our way to move around our cities, the culture of mobility. No, it means that it's 300 years that we are doing the same. We have to look at timetables. We have to look where the bus stop is. We have to walk to the bus stop. We have to attend the bus arrive, and the flexible transport will change the way that we use the public transport. Then intelligent, no? Erica was a 5-level autonomous vehicle. Compartido is shared in English. That it means that we want that public transport, even we use autonomous vehicles, we want that public transport remains being a shared service. And amable is kind. It's kindness service, because we can explain before. We want to another concept of driver. The driver will not drive the bus, but we thought that even remain in the bus to explain and to do the tourist guide, or even explain to the travelers all what happened in the city and everything, or even go even do that the municipality office, even this service. Then it had to decide which cities will participate in the project. We won that was 8 municipalities representing the different types of our municipalities, and we decide with more than 20 applications, we decide the finally 8 municipalities representing all our country. The final, the tour was 50,000 users, 50,000 passengers. We were in one city near Barcelona, Sant Cugat, a big metropolitan city. 3 cities near Barcelona, Terrassa, Sabadell, and Martorell. 100,000 to 200,000 citizens. And then in Girona, in the center of, in a campus, in a university campus. And then in Tarragona, we were in El Vendrell and Reus, two smallest cities. And then in central Catalonia, for even 40,000 citizens. And the experience in those 8 cities, we have 8 types of situations. No? We look to put the bus in cities in normal ways with a restricted circulation street, using in Sabadell, for example, one real bus stop, or maybe in Terrassa. We put the bus inside a park, running inside the park, doing 400 meters inside the park. In Girona was in a street of University of Girona, and in big Martorell Reus was in pedestrian zone. No? Those vehicles right now can be only used in restricted areas or pedestrian zones. We made more than 800 kilometers, and well, we need a vehicle, and we used a vehicle from Easy Mile. The industry Easy Mile is near in Toulouse, and they have a stand you can visit then after. And then flexible transport will be the last step of autonomous vehicles. And then now, Sarah, I think that we can talk more about flexible transport and the experience of Erika.
Sounds good, thank you. Let's take a seat. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Can everybody hear me? Hello? Oh, am I on now? Okay, good. So thanks very much. It's a kind of exciting future that we're looking forward to, but it's a gradual step process, isn't it? You said first of all, the flexible transport and then the autonomous. How long do you see this process as taking? How many years?
Well, I think we have told in those municipalities that we can see these type of vehicles in 2020, it's possible that this type of buses, autonomous buses, can circulate, can go with a restricted zone or pedestrian zones. But I think in an open circulation, I think it takes more or less 10 years to regulate and to change some laws, some codes in the law. It's necessary to make some changes
Yes.
to this.
Yes, I mean, it's, as ever, it's not just about the technology and the transports. There's a lot of other things need to happen. What are the main things that cities need to do to prepare?
Now, cities, with this experience, they can see that it's not necessary to do nothing because the infrastructure or the sensors, it must be in the vehicle, in the bus or in the vehicle, and you only have to plan the city for that. I think that the park zones with autonomous buses or with autonomous vehicles, it won't be necessary, more or less, no? Because the vehicles will go around the streets every time without a stop. And it's necessary to think about it, not for any infrastructure. The streets don't need any special infrastructure. Yeah. Only it's necessary to develop the 5G infrastructure, the communication that will use this type of vehicles to communicate between us, between it. No? First of all, it can be 3 vehicles in the same route, and then those 3 vehicles will talk between it and explain what is happening in the next step of the vehicle that goes on back. No?
And is there a role for technologies like artificial intelligence? Will we be able to start building up the kind of data that will allow us to be more efficient based on increased knowledge?
These type of vehicles will be more efficient. You mean that? No?
But I mean, over time, will these vehicles start to build up patterns of where they're picking people up, and with artificial intelligence begin to actually predict better routes, maybe?
Exactly. It's a service completely adapt on demand. No? You can call the service with an app or with making a call, and it's very accessible. No, you don't need to search where the bus stop is. You can call it for the service right in front of the door.
Yeah. Now, you've spoken to lots of people in different cities about this, and citizens, and how they feel. You mentioned that you were surprised to find that some older people were quite happy with it, and the idea of having an autonomous vehicle. The other part of all of this, of course, is that we are collecting data. If you use an app, your data is collected, and that will be the same with transport. Are there privacy concerns? Are citizens concerned about what will happen with their data?
This aspect is what we are working right now. No? We think that this type of service, mobility as a service, flexible transport, autonomous vehicles, we think that this data, this big data, must to remain in a public administration, in a public sector, but it's necessary making this with the partnership, with the private partnership. And we are working to have here in Catalonia one enterprise, one mixed in private public to manage this, no? To be sure that this data remains in our sector, in our public sector. But even the private are the experts in moving people and operating vehicles as well. We needed the private sector to do that. I think that the best way is remaining the partnership public-private.
Yeah, yeah. Now, one of the things that will be difficult is, I mean, obviously this was a limited test in planned areas. You know, we're already looking at possible accidents of autonomous vehicles. I mean, in some ways, you know, everybody says, oh my goodness, the autonomous vehicles crash, but humans crash every day, right? On the other hand, there are going to be decisions to be made, ethical decisions on, you know, how you program one of these vehicles. Is it going to hurt the people inside the bus or outside the bus in the case of an accident? What do you think are the challenges there?
I think it's the more difficult aspect, no, to consider about the autonomous buses, autonomous vehicles, no? Decide to program what person have to be hurt, no, in a radical situation, because it will be a radical situation that it have to be considered, and a human must to program the technical specifications to the program, that the bus or the vehicle can decide what to do in this situation. And I think we have to do more talking about more about this, no, and make a structure exactly in which cases that we prefer to do that. But first of all, I think the aspect more important is the arriving of flexible transport. This will change right now our culture of mobility. We can move on demand. And this will arrive in next 1-2 years. It's not.
It's happening now.
Exactly. We have wait 100 years to do that. But I think in next year here in Catalonia we will present an APP that we can do that. All the mobility as a service to manage the flexible transport in all around our country, and then in 10 years. Can incorporate incorporate the autonomous vehicles.
So we're moving fast. Well, I think we're now at the point where we're going to have some questions from the audience. So I believe I'm going to get a tablet, and I'm going to ask Wojtek to come back onto the stage. Thank you. And maybe one more chair. So I hope you've all been putting lots of questions into the app. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so you're first off,
Okay.
Wojtek. So we have a question here. Volocopter takes traffic from the road surface up to the air to decrease congestion on roads. How will you avoid a traffic jam in the air and on the landing spots, particularly? You mentioned these tens of thousands that are going to be going every day.
Okay. I guess that this will be a very, very good question, because we need to regulate the lower airspace. When there will be, you know, when a few volocopters are flying in the air, that's no problem. But if there are hundreds of volocopters, for example, flying above a city, then we need to regulate the lower airspace, and we need to define the routes very exactly, so that there is not every 10 meters a volocopter flying above a house or something like that. So there is a definition needed, and I showed off within the Volo hubs that we are even able to, you know, to operate with 10,000 passengers per day, because there will be like an automated system where you're landing on a Volopad. The Volocopter is driving it safe inside. You're just stepping out. We are switching automatically the batteries, and you know, and on the other side of the Volopad, a new passenger is stepping into this vehicle.
Right. Okay. Well, we'll see how it goes.
Yes, exactly.
I think everybody is. I think our main concerns, isn't it, with all of this is can we get rid of these traffic jams? I think we're all and whether it's your plan for the flexible transport or in the air, something's got to happen to change this, right? So so back to you, Joanna. I mean, we talked a little bit about this, but somebody wants to know how will these autonomous vehicles block accidents in real time, and how, I think you were speaking to me a little bit earlier about how soon it reacts. Just tell us a bit about how that works.
Yes, this vehicle, Erica, was equipped with 8 sensors, these laser sensors, and those sensors can read all what is happening around 360 around the vehicle. And just 200 meters, and the vehicles stop when every kind of object, arrive approximately 30 centimeters around the vehicle. This is a challenge that we have to improve. No, the 5G connections. Can the camera or the camera with the vehicle carry, it will send an image to the center of recognition of image.
And is it just images, or is it sound? Is there a physical? How much do these sensors capture?
How much?
Well, I was going to say, is it only camera, visual? Would they be able to detect a noise of a child coming near the bus? Is it sound as well?
All the 8 sensors can detect these objects or child or everything that will arrive near than 30 centimeters around the vehicle. The vehicle will stop immediately. If you jump, the child. Was a hobby in the experience, in the Erica tour. The child jump in front of the bus and can see that the bus stop immediately, and it's a great experience. These sensors can be stop the vehicle immediately.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And Wojtek, what are we looking at in terms of somebody asks about the landing spaces? Are we going to have to create brand new ones? Are we going to utilize the top of existing buildings? What kind of infrastructure needs to be put in place for those drop-off and take-off points?
I guess that when we are talking, we have to make a difference. When we are talking about the starting point, I guess that it's totally enough to have landing pads on the top of buildings, for example. When we would like to operate or to serve 10,000 passengers per day, then it's of course not enough to land on the top of the building. We will need different solutions then. But I guess in the beginning it will be this way, that we will have existing landing spots which already exist, which are used by helicopters, for example, that we will use, but we will create after a while own landing spots that are able to serve more people.
Does that mean you'll have to acquire land in the city? Does it have to be ground level, or does it have to be high?
We don't care. It could be on the ground. It could be also on the top of a building. We don't care, because we are able to land everywhere. If it's even on the ground, could be. If we are talking about suburbs, for example, of cities, then it could be on ground. When we are talking about the inner city center, and we have to make differences again between New York City, for example, and other cities, then we have only landing space on top of buildings, probably.
Yes.
And then we have to find a solution for this, and this would be probably a solution on top of a building, or on a parking house, right. Whatever. So there are a lot of solutions that we can create.
Okay, interesting. Now, here's a question for Joanna. I think this is one that a lot of people will be asking, but somebody asks here, what will happen to the jobs related to driving? We're looking at, this wave of autonomous vehicles. How can we manage transportation and not have massive job losses?
I introduced it before, the word of kindness vehicle, and the part of the name of Erica was thought just for explain the new paper that the drivers have to do in the driverless vehicles. We think that we can change the daily work of drivers. The drivers nowadays, they do a lot of things when they drive the bus. No, we can took them. We can free them to drive the bus, and then can assist. No, then can improve the experience when you get on bus. No, the experience when you travel with bus. These drivers with a new name. No, we have to think about the new name that we will make to the driver. Can assist, no? Can improve the experience. Maybe with a tablet, no? With a mobile phone. With a mobile phone, then can assist the passengers to make papers for administration, no? To can sign the applications to the municipality or to the administration, getting in the bus. Maybe it's.
Somebody asks here, mentions that the project Elon Musk is digging tunnels to avoid traffic jams. We've got so many different ideas, from autonomous vehicles to volocopters. Is there one solution better than the other, or and I'm going to ask both of you this? How do all these different solutions exist together, but without getting too complicated?
Volocopter is a specific user, and going to A to B, proximally to the taxi. No, your name, Volocopter is a taxi. You know, our system, no, the flexible transport with autonomous vehicles or without autonomous vehicles. It's thinked with shared service. It's not a personalized service, no. And we want that remaining this, no, a shared service.
Now we are talking also about shared service, so Volocopter should be also shared. I guess that the point is, what are we trying to do by creating all these different types of transportation? We are trying to get the people out of these cars, get rid of these cars. Because the cities are trying to get more green places within the city, and that we have to reduce the number of cars in the cities. And that's the opportunity that we have by creating different types of transportation, I guess. And all of these transportation types will be shared. And this will cause a reduction of number of cars.
Do we perhaps need? I mean, I'm just thinking. You don't have a different ticket for a volocopter and a different ticket for a flexible bus. Are there ways that technology could integrate all these services? So I don't know. Instead of buying a bus ticket or buying a ticket to fly across the city, I might just go, okay, I'm buying transport for a day or for a week or whatever, and then it would. I'm just imagining here. Might it choose which is the most efficient version for me, even?
But it's not a dream anymore. Because, for example, there is a company called Movil, and there are a lot of other companies working on those applications exactly, that they would like to combine all transportation types. We are not just talking about public transportation. We are talking about bike sharing, car sharing, ride-hailing, ride-sharing, taxis, air taxi services, whatever. Whatever is in place should be available through one application. And then you're really buying a transport.
Right, a solution.
A solution, a transport solution, and not only a
exactly.
a trip with a car.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
This is what we will present on April, an application, a Catalan solution to do that, mobility as a service, no?
Yeah.
Only with a card, with your personal card, a citizen card, with a citizen card, paying a money per month, no, for a service, for using a swimming pool, park, cars, car sharing, Volocopter.
Truly integrated services. Well, sadly, that's all we've got time for. Thank you, everybody, for your questions. Those were great questions. We're now going to go to a short networking break, and then we're going to be back here at 12:50 for a session called Preparing Communities for Autonomous Mobility. So thank you very much to my speakers here, and thank you for the questions.
Thanks a lot.
Okay. Good morning. Welcome, everyone, to the second part of the session. Certainly, nowadays, autonomous mobility, it's kind of a magic word, plenty of hopes. So let's take this session, focus on preparing communities for autonomous mobility. Let me first introduce myself. My name is Lluis Jofre. I'm a professor at the Technical University of Catalonia here in Barcelona, expert on communications in principle, and besides, I'm an academic director of CARNET. CARNET is a consortium, a think tank devoted to promote urban mobility. So with these two labels, let me introduce the session. So, in the autonomous mobility deployment, there are certainly big challenges. How to get the cities and the citizenships on board? How would be a fair public-private balance when deploying it? How to use this new autonomous mobility as a real opportunity to rethink, to improve the cities. May we transform the actual mobility that's a little mesh in the new life for the cities, seeing this autonomous mobility in a radical different way? That's some of the questions that we try to address with our three distinguished speakers. So let me first introduce the Professor Hussein Dia, that he plans to talk about, analyze the impact of the shared mobility. Let me just give you some words about his biography. Professor Hussein is currently Deputy Director of the Smart Cities Research Institute on the Swinburne University of Technology in Australia, and leader of the Institute for Future Urban Mobility Programs. His current work is focused on disruptive mobility and digital innovation for low carbon mobility. Please, podium is yours.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your talk.
Thank you. All right. I see it is actually more than 12 o'clock, so it's good afternoon. And it's a pleasure to be here. What I would like to take my 8 minutes to talk to you about is share some insights from the work we are doing on evaluating the impacts of autonomous vehicles when they do arrive. So for a very long time, we have been working on transport, looking at the three dimensions of urban mobility. We had the infrastructure, the technology, and users. And the most interesting part is where they intersect, because this is where you can create smarter mobility and meaningful experiences for people. But in recent times, we have been starting to hear about the fourth dimension of urban mobility. And this is really a new ecosystem that has emerged over the past 5 years, perhaps. And it is really reshaping the way we are thinking about delivering mobility in our cities. So each of these technologies in this diagram, whether it is vehicle electrification, self-driving technologies, the sharing economy, blockchain, etc., each of these technologies is quite significant on its own. But there's going to come a point in time where the disruptive value is when they are going to be merging together. And everyone, of course, is waiting that single point in time, because this is where the real value is going to come to our citizens. However, questions remain. Are we still going to be allowed to drive in the future? If these vehicles reduce accidents by 90%, because most of the accidents are due to human error, are we still going to be allowed to drive? Will personal ownership of cars basically decline, giving way to a Netflix-like subscription model? Will mobility be offered as a subscription service? And are we getting closer to a vision of zero accidents, zero emissions, and zero car ownership? And can it all possibly go wrong, which it can? And what do we need to do to prepare ourselves for the future? So let me share with you some of the findings of our research. We have developed a simulation model for the city of Melbourne, and we have been looking about what impact is going to have on a city that large. And the results are quite consistent with other studies from around the world. So we found we can deliver the same mobility for people using only 20% of the existing vehicle fleet. So we can do away with 80% of the vehicle fleet on one condition, that these vehicles need to be shared. However, the downside is there's going to be an increase in the vehicle kilometers of travel, up to 80%, because some of these vehicles are what we call zombie vehicles. They're going to be running around empty, looking for the next customer, etc. It will introduce 30% increase in vehicle kilometers of travel if they are shared, and 83% reduction in parking space, and so forth. So these are quite significant findings. Some of the policy insights for this is that governments need to promote the shared use of vehicles. We cannot forget about mass public transport. We still need to have investments. And it could be a threat to the suburban bus line, but not to the mass transit, if you like. The most interesting part is the emerging business models around autonomous shared mobility. So as you can see here, a lot of the auto manufacturers are heavily investing in tech providers and shared mobility providers, and everyone is targeting the kilometer as a utility. They're no longer interested in selling us a car and saying goodbye, maybe see you when you need maintenance. They are focused on actually capitalizing on our need for travel. In Australia, we spent more than $70 billion in 2016 on travel. So all these companies are actually trying to grab a piece of that market. The other dimension I wanted to talk about, and I should stress that these are very low probability, but you probably heard about this, is the ethical dilemma of autonomous vehicles. So in situations where a computer fails or a sensor fails, etc., and the vehicle is about to have a crash, what should the self-driving software do? Interestingly, MIT, a couple of weeks ago, they put out the results of a large survey. Some 2 million people participated in the survey, more than 40 million decision points, and they asked people, what would you think the vehicle should do, for example, in this case, when the vehicle is about to fail, and it has options either to continue on its course and kill 3 people, 2 elderly men and an elderly female who are jaywalking, or swerve into a wall and kill the drivers, a dad, a mom, and a child. So these are all hypothetical situations, and hopefully we don't need to think about these because the vehicles would need to stop. However, these have captured people's imaginations, and the results of this are quite interesting. So they were able to group the world into 3 moral clusters: East, West, and South. In general, all clusters agreed that there is a need to save more lives than fewer lives. There is a need to save the young rather than the old. And also, there is also the need to save more people rather than few people. When you look at what happens within each cluster, the results are quite surprising. So, for example, Australia was most different from Brunei. And as you can see in this diagram here, it shows you where each certain societies, if you like, thought about the question. For example, for Spain, you can see as well the most starking difference is with Azerbaijan, and the two countries had totally different views, if you like, about how these vehicles should behave. One interesting aspect of this as well is that the researchers found that what the people want are actually quite different from what the regulators are doing. So, for example, in 2017, Germany released the ethical guidelines for autonomous vehicles, and there was no mention about the need to save more lives than few lives. And there was a stipulation as well, is that driverless cars should not discriminate between the young and the old. Yep. So why is this important? Because we need to inform the regulators who are going to allow these vehicles on the road. And this is a big part of our research, and a big part of, I think, what all the research should be focused is how do we allow these vehicles on the road? What tests do they need to pass before we can safely implement them and deploy them large scale? So I leave you with these thoughts, and we look forward to receiving some of your questions later on. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this new approach to the citizen thoughts in the different parts of the world. Okay, so let's move to the second speaker, Mr. Yves Mathieu. He plans to approach us to discuss about what the citizens think about the mobility, about the autonomous car, related to the previous questions. And for that, let me introduce a little bit Mr. Mathieu. He's a practitioner of the activation of the expertise of the non-expert into complex strategies, agendas, and public policies. He co-directs Mission Publique, one of the European leading teams in the design of citizens' do tanks. He was telling me that's one of the unique worldwide agencies able to catch citizens' opinions about important things. Please, floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I will share my presentation with citizens. As you will see, Professor Hussein Dia, I will add one political insight on your agenda, which is the revolution on autonomous mobility will not happen without the citizen considered not as users or customers, but as co-decision makers. And so what we do is that we invite ordinary citizens to engage a conversation during a full day prior receiving information on the issue of the topic. And during the full day, they define their own agenda and they present it to the industry or to the local authorities. So I have a short movie to show you. This is about a pilot phase that we did in 5 French cities last January. I'm going to share some results with you. And in spring 2019, we are going to expand this citizens' debate in 40 cities in Europe, North America, and Canada. So if some of you volunteer to host such a debate or want to partner, you are welcome to talk to me after this presentation. These are our partners for this pilot. We partner with the cities and with industry like Airbus, Alliance, insurance company, Leonard, connected with Vinci Highways, Keolis transit system, and a research center from the SNCF. So this is the movie I'm going to share. It's 4 minutes, and this is the citizens who come in this room, and you will see how ordinary citizens can engage on this topic.
Un débat citoyen, c'est une aventure partagée par de nombreuses personnes qui décident de s'engager pour dialoguer. Le principe d'un débat citoyen, c'est la présomption de compétence. Chaque personne a quelque chose à dire sur le sujet. Il n'y a pas de sujet qui puisse échapper à un débat.
Ça sert à reconnecter les citoyens aux décisions qui les concernent.
Voilà, donc je suis venue à ce débat parce que je m'intéresse à mon territoire, à l'évolution du territoire, à l'évolution des technologies.
Je me suis inscrit et étant chauffeur de bus, je suis en train de signer mon arrêt de mort. Et c'est en même temps pour trouver une autre alternative, m'adapter à un futur. C'est-à-dire avoir un autre métier peut-être, pourquoi pas.
Toutes les heures, on changeait de table. Ça nous permettait de rencontrer des personnes différentes.
C'est génial de voir des gens qui viennent d'un peu partout dans la région, des gens qui ne se connaissent pas, qui se parlent ouvertement des véhicules autonomes et ses enjeux. On ressent vraiment l'intérêt autour de ce sujet passionnant.
Je dois dire que je suis tout à fait épaté par la qualité des échanges et la diversité des profils qui se sont présentés aujourd'hui et c'est un débat tout à fait passionnant.
Ce qui m'étonne le plus dans les échanges, c'est de voir combien les citoyens sont prêts à accueillir les nouvelles formes de mobilité. Et ces échanges sont extrêmement précieux parce qu'ils nous permettent en tant qu'assureurs d'anticiper les solutions d'assurance que nous devons développer demain pour répondre au mieux à ces nouveaux besoins.
Et j'ai pris conscience en fait uniquement avec cette journée et en lisant le magazine que l'impact sur les villes et la forme des villes allait être conséquente, alors que je fais quand même des études d'urbanisme et on n'avait pas parlé jusque-là.
Il faut que les politiques tiennent en compte le facteur humain.
Le premier enseignement, c'est d'arriver à construire des territoires dans lesquels la possession d'une voiture à titre individuel n'est plus obligatoire.
Écoutez les citoyens et n'écoutez pas trop les lobbies industriels qui vont vous vendre leur salade.
Ils ont des questions que je trouve ultra pertinentes. Ils ont des critiques ou des propositions de qualité et je trouve qu'ils sont vraiment formidables. Ouais.
In 2019, this will happen in 10 different languages in 40 different cities on 2 continents. And you have a presentation available on a table there, as well the full results. I'm just going in the 90 seconds that I have to share the results with you, told you 2 things. The first one is that we learned from this 5 pilot counterintuitive things. For instance, the rural areas are the ones that are the more open to autonomous mobility compared to the urban areas. Second thing, the people above 60 are more willing to see that mobility happening in their city than the young people. The pressure from the old people is stronger. There are reasons for that. And we also could see differences from cities. In some cities, the citizens said to their government, please wait, that the industry go further. In other cities, they say, push the innovation, we want to try. But when they say we want to try, it's not one vehicle on one line. They want to try the system at a larger scale. There are also 3 messages that they brought to the local authorities and to the industry. The first one is that they want to make sure that the local government is engaged to control the data, to make sure that the data are properly used, to control the employment issue, and also to make sure that this new mobility will be accessible for all and not only reserved for the happy few. So 3 messages to the local government. To the industry, they say, okay, that's nice what you do, but you need to include us in the development, because if you don't do that, when the development will come there, we will stop them. And it's a message that is very clear. For instance, on aerial mobility, they are okay to do that. They trust, in general, artificial intelligence, but there are conditions. And they want to have their condition taken into account by the industry. And I'm not going to go further because my time is over, but I will answer questions or listen to your comments on that. And in this magazine, you have more results on that. So I can only engage you as industry leaders to take into account the citizens, not as customers, but as co-decision makers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mathieu. It's clear citizens, you not as a users, but as a decisioners. That's the learned lesson. Okay, thank you very much. And right now, what do we need to do with technology to make all those things possible? So we have with us a speaker, Mr. Gilles Ayalon, that will approach the technology of the autonomous vehicle with a special view into the safety. So let me introduce a little bit Mr. Ayalon. Mr. Gilles Ayalon is Regional Director of the Aftermarket Division at Mobilitat, an Intel company, passionate about driver safety and technology. He's a global professional with over 20 years, you are young, experience in the business development and entrepreneurial realms. Please, Mr. Ayalon, go ahead.
Thank you very much. It was the two speakers is fascinating stuff, and we tend to agree with them, and I will try to see how I can combine it with more, from the technology part. 90% of the accident, as Professor Hussein said also, it's because of us. It's more than 90%. 90% of all of this room. It's a big problem. It also costs a lot of money and changing the way of our life. Autonomous vehicle could and will reduce more than 90% of them. It's going to be safe as to fly today. Although a plane crash is a very bad photo, but the numbers, it's the safest way to fly. The goals. Without these 4 pillars, and I will complete what my colleague said, it will never happen. First of all, safe. It has to be safe. It won't be safe, nobody will try it or use it. Without transparency, without the public opinion, together, it's not going to happen. The industry cannot hold lies, for example, behind, not that they did, or surprises or secret. Everything must be opened. It must be useful. If it won't be useful, nobody will use it. It has to be on time. It has to be easy to use, and etc. And it has to be affordable. So mobility on demand, this is a very good approach, and we think also that it's the way to do that. To own a car is the worst investment that we can have today. We don't use the car, or a part of professional users. And we have to find a way, from technology-wise, that is going to be affordable for everybody to use. How we do that? 3 pillars, 3 challengers, 3 obstacles, and one that it's summarized all on top of them. Sensing, mapping, driving policy, and it has to be safe. How we do that? This is what Intel doing today, Mobilitat Intel, with more than 13 manufacturers on program for autonomous vehicle, not mention the current project about safety. Sensing. We're using the camera vision sensor or the primary sensor. Why? Because it's very cost effective, and we see all the details with the camera. When the camera don't see well or needs some help, we're going to use bulk of radars and lidars as a redundancy. For autonomous vehicle, must be redundancy all the time. More than 2 or 3 redundancy. So this is in Jerusalem, by the way. This is autonomous vehicle in Jerusalem. This is how we sense the environment. Sensing is how to sense the environment in a model of 360 degrees. and the configuration of the sensor technology-wise. 12 cameras and bunch of radars and leaders. Now, autonomous vehicle, we need to understand the scene that they understand. So if I want to get out of the room, I can see you, I can understand the scene, but I don't know what happened. I don't know if the coffee machine is working. I don't know if the elevator is working. We need to get some help. So we're trying to talk about connected vehicle. In order to enable a connected vehicle, we must have 5G. But we don't have 5G today. And it's going to take decades to install antennas and modems in the cars for 5G antennas. So what we do to then, we're using HD maps that will help the car use, the map will be as a redundancy for the sensor in case if something happened. For example, dark tunnel with no connectivity. Or we come to an area there's no connection, use it as a memory. The car needs to know how to locate itself with accuracy of 5 centimeters in the lane. So we need to understand all the environment around us in the accuracy of 5 centimeters. 5 centimeters, it's very accurate. How we do that in a scalable way? Because GPS, the best GPS in the automotive today will give you 2 meters plus minus. If you put it outside on the roof, it's not enough. So we have to feed and create a map that will help us make it more accurate using aggregation of data. This is how we do that. We're analyzing the scene of the road using vision sensor and identifying all the landmarks that the car needs to go and a bit more. We're driving, we need to drive around 10 to 10 times in each path, if it's 400 meters, if it's 10 kilometers. Identify all the objects, send everything to the cloud. We don't need 5G, 2, 3, 4G is okay. We aggregate the data and we distribute it back to whoever we need it, if it's a car or other stakeholders and road users. We use only 10 kilobytes per kilometer. It has to be scalable. No one can afford sending snapshots, videos. It's nice for demo, it's nice for publicity, but we are working with Volkswagen, for example, other BMW, mass transit. Nobody can afford that. The data must be scalable. Right. By the way, we're using other features for other applications for the smart cities and road users to understand the situation of the infrastructure in the city, etc. So this is summary how we do that. Harvesting the data using crowdsource. So imagine smart agent that circling the street using the same safety features today. The same features that help you to save lives, automatic braking, for example, and etc. Use everything to the cloud, process it, and back to action. The third pillar is driving policy. In order to enable autonomous vehicle on the streets, Gran Via, Plaza Catalunya, the computer needs to think like us, have the same intuition and assertiveness. Who recognizes this? The first one will get a beer from me. The first to recognize this place. It's easy, guys. Okay. Okay, true, it's Paris. The first manufacturer or company will put autonomous vehicle there, I think, and rule the world. It's impossible. I think there's people trying to get off this roundabout for 2 years. Autonomous vehicle need to get to be aggressive like us. If you're going to put computer in a roundabout, it will never leave. When 2 persons is entering a roundabout, the first thing that happens is eye contact. The person going to be more aggressive will go out. I'm from Israel. You know, if I want to get into a highway from a side street, the one that will let me get inside, it's not exist, haven't born yet. So the car will need to push herself. If not, all the traffic all over the city can stop. So we need to provide the cars the same intuition and assertiveness that we do. It's like how to study, how we learn how to drive. The first 2 lessons was how to operate the car. The other 25 or 30 was how to negotiate and merge in traffic. Now, if it won't be safe, it won't work. Unfortunately, today the society can accept men killing men. Yeah, I'm about to finish. We have accidents, we have crime, and etc. But can we accept machine killing a person? I don't think so. So today, Mobileye Intel leading a consortium with the regulators and all the industry of creating an open platform, an open formula, responsibility, sensitivity, safety, that will analyze and make sure that autonomous vehicle will not do an accident by his own fault. This is autonomous vehicle in Jerusalem. This is a real environment. Safety today for the autonomous tomorrow. It will be a few days until the autonomous vehicle will come, so we have to drive safe till then. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The message, safe vehicle by their own as much as possible. I understood.
Sure.
That's a little bit the message. Okay, right now we have 15 minutes to share with them the opportunity to asking questions, to make comments. So there is two ways. Some of you have been already sending questions and comments that we'll process right now. I'm just been given. And the second way is that if someone of you wishes to stand up and to put a question on real time. So is there anyone wishing to put a question directly? Okay, please, could you stand up and use the microphone that you have on your right? Thank you.
Okay, okay. I don't want. I mean, I don't want this to sound rude. I just. I've seen through these days. There's lots of companies working on autonomous driving, on improving cars being safer. Don't you think we should be pushing? And this is for all of you. Don't you think we should be pushing towards different kinds of mobility outside of roads, or changing urban plannings instead of working on focusing towards the next 20, 25 years in more intelligent cars, safer cars? I mean, I love cars, but I don't think they're supposed to be the focus right now. I might be wrong. I just want to know your thoughts. So thank you.
Thank you. In any way?
Yeah. I think it's working. Can you hear me? I think that you're totally right. This is I hate driving, and I think that you should do all the efforts in doing that. But unfortunately, we're talking about mass transit for mass people, and we need to get the people from A to B, and this is the only way in the medium and long, even the long term. So I don't see how it's going to be mass delivered to this kind of solution, but we should thought about it, and I think the regulator need to think how to do that.
And I also agree, and I think that's a great question. I think we need to think of autonomous vehicles as one part of a holistic solution. You touched briefly on urban planning. I think most of the problems we have today with transport are actually based on our addiction to motorized private vehicles. In Australia, if you stand on the side of the road and you count the number of people inside a vehicle, on average, it's 1.2 people per vehicle. You mentioned how expensive it is to own a car. A lot of the younger people nowadays are even shying from getting a driver license. They prefer to, it is inexpensive, and they prefer to be driven, texting, and all of that. So I totally agree. Our research shows that the best use for autonomous vehicles is for what we call first and last kilometer. So this is when you shuttle people from their homes to the nearest train station, or from their offices to the nearest train station. But this idea of having 11-lane freeways and small, tiny pods with one person inside, I think this is a recipe for disaster.
In the citizens' debate, we give 90 minutes to the citizens to co-design the desired future. And what comes out from that session is that we have hundreds of scenarios co-designed by the participant. And basically, it's not the car that they target on, it's the system. So they want a more intelligent system of mobility, not a more intelligent car. And when they say about more intelligent system, is better service. They want the problems that they face daily solved. They want more choice, so other forms of mobility as well. But they want more safety. I mean, we have 3,000 deaths every year in France due to human behavior. It's not acceptable for the people anymore. So having more intelligent cars is something that they see also as a solution to this disaster that we face, that 3,000 families face every year in France and tens of thousands in Europe and probably millions in the world. So everything is necessary in this. And we need to move from thinking cars to thinking the system. And in the system, we have the citizens. So we also have autonomous citizens in the background.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
May we ask for a second question coming? Okay, please.
Since the private companies are mostly responsible for developing these technologies, are they cooperating? Because I know in the US there was issues in Nevada where the government of the state gave them the AOK, said go, and they had several accidents. And the citizens were not happy and voted a citizens measure in to shut it down because they were worried about safety, rightly so. Are they cooperating with the citizen demands?
Thank you.
All right, I'll have a go. I think in my presentation I raised this issue is when do we decide as a community that these vehicles are safe enough? So Waymo, which is Google's company, last week or a couple of weeks ago, they got the green light to test fully driverless cars in California. And I don't know what did they have to do to basically convince the regulators. So at the moment, the industry is self-regulating. So some of the companies say, well, I have driven 1 million miles. I've only had 1 disengagement, 2 disengagement. I think I'm safe enough. Let's go and do it. I don't think this is enough. We need to develop a test, and it needs to be perhaps a universal test. I have a very good idea about that test. It is based on a virtual Turing test, an AI test, but nobody has done it yet, and it will take years to develop. Some regulators are worried if they don't allow private companies to do these tests, that they would be stifling innovation. And in many ways, yes, I agree. I would like to see these mobility systems available tomorrow, but they need to be safe.
Thank you. Any other comment?
Citizens expect national and international authorities to cooperate to create a framework. If the result of this mobility revolution produces closed systems living together, they will refuse it, and there will be actions from the citizens. So there is a need, as you say in your question, for cooperation, and there is a need for regulation to make sure that these systems are accessible for all, and that we don't have a result as closed and maybe sometimes expensive system reserved for the happy few. So there will be resistance in the citizens for the decision-making process if this happens.
We identified it. It's working. We identified this problem more than 2 years ago. So this is why we started with our RSS model that we should discuss later, by the way, and to make sure that everybody is going to be aligned in the same and the same algorithm or the same software for the vehicle. Think about the Chinese. What about the European and the American? There's going to be a lot of debate, or the Russians. They're developing their own, everything close. So there's a lot of things to do about it. It's enough to be safe. And totally agree.
Okay, there is still time for a third question from the public. So let me give the floor to the online question. I think it's a very smart question, saying, I am just reading, okay. I agree that citizens have to be co-decision makers. But how can they make important decisions without the knowledge of an expert? How do they get the info?
Yeah,
I'm looking.
I mean, if you want a democracy to work, it works with the fact that you need to share the information. So when we do such debate, the people, before they join other people in the room, they receive information about what is at stake, what are the main questions, what are the positions around the tables. And during the day, you've seen in the movie, they receive videos. There are 5 to 8 minutes video. Everything is available online. You can have a look to them, where we share the information with them. So, of course, the point is not just to put people in a room and say you are co-decision maker. It's to create the condition that that expertise of non-expert can be useful, and it does not happen without informing them about the issues, of course.
I want to disagree a little bit. I think that the citizen need to be involved. Everything needs to be transparent. I don't think the citizen in this kind of situation can take decision. I will give you an example. The main reason that the human factors are caused for 94% because everybody thinks they are a good driver. Nobody from you will buy safety feature before a presentation. Nobody. I will give you 900 euro. Everybody will go to Ibiza now, or will buy the new iPhone, or go to Media Market to buy the new television. We are good drivers. It never happened to me. But when the regulators step in with the help of experts, with study, incentivize, increase their awareness, incentivize, even mandate, then you see the result.
Okay.
I just want to add that my point is not to say that the citizens are the only co-decision makers. Of course, what I say is that there is one expertise to add to the stakeholders of the system, and it's the expertise of the non-expert, but it does not prevent, of course, and we don't expect them to take all the dimension into consideration and so on. So it's really to add a seat for the non-experts in the stakeholders discussion.
There is a certain number of concerns coming from the online related with the safety. They keep asking, would those autonomous systems be able to navigate in really tough conditions from the road, from the climate, things like that. So safety is certainly one of the major concerns on mostly of the remaining questions. Could you still add something on that?
So if the answer is yes, it's going to be like an airplane can fly with extreme condition and with the bad weather. The idea is to create and to prepare the city. We call it autonomous ready. It's a project that we started in some cities in the world, and to gather a lot of data. Okay, so we have to use the crowdsourcing technologies I mentioned and to start map and to grab data. And we have a lot of redundancy, backups to enable that, because we will have to face this extreme condition. We cannot block all the circulation in London, for example, or Barcelona, or in Melbourne. So the answer is yes. The technology is ready to do that. The main obstacle is more the regulators and the readiness of the citizens, of course.
Okay, we have a little bit less than 3 final minutes that I would like to put you kind of a general question. Sometimes reality overpasses fiction. So no one knows at which speed this new autonomous driving mobility would appear. It may happen that it may be slower than we may think right now, or it may happen that may be a little bit faster. And it may happen that it may be kind of a continuistic change or much more disruptive. For example, we may imagine that buses and cars disappear and new vehicle appear, just taking over what we know right now, much more modular, much more linkable, much more whatever. So could you say something on what's your forecast, what's your prognostic for that? If you could, based on the different opinions and based on technology, based on studies, based on citizen. Okay, thank you for that.
Good question, good question. Now we're in a phase of taking James Bond movie and boom them a reality. So this is what we're trying to do now. It's going to take time. It's going to take time. We will see a lot of local projects. Like I saw something that in Catalonia with this shuttles, and we have in Munich and Jerusalem, and we'll see what happened with Google. But I think it's going to take almost 2 decades until we. It's not in the corner. It's going to take a lot of time.
Okay. Yes.
I have no answer to that, but what is surprising is to see the gap between what we have in the news every day saying this is going to work, and we see the incredible vehicle, and we are in the science fiction saying this works today, and the say of some experts saying it will not happen before 30 or 40 years. And so between it's possible today and it won't happen before 30 years, it's a so big uncertainty that there is a need to put this on the political agenda. Because, as you said, disruption can happen. And this is why we promote citizens' debate now, because it forces the local authorities and the industry to create a political agenda. It's not only a technological agenda for which there is a high level of uncertainty, but there is a need to make sure that this will be accompanied by a political agenda codified with the citizens.
Thank you. We have 10 seconds.
All right. I'm very optimistic. Very optimistic about the future. I think depends on whose story you believe. Some are saying you expect them in the 2020s, others in the 2040s. But they need to be part of a very holistic solution. They are not the only solution.
Okay. Let's thank again those 3 distinguished and complementary speakers. And let's give the floor to the chairman. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, man. Really was a pleasure.
We go down?
Yes, no, we go down because they take over.
Thanks for a great session. As chair of this morning's discussions, I'm just going to do a very brief wrap-up. We had some fascinating remarks coming out there, and I came away with some key takeaways here. 1, not safe, nobody's going to use it. I think that's a given. We've got that message very strongly. But we also need to have citizens involved in the discussions as co-decision makers. They're going to be the users. I think the inspiring thing is this a chance to reimagine our cities? Let's not just tweak at systems that already exist. Could we actually redesign the way our cities look and feel and work? I think the fascinating results of some of the research that our panelists have engaged in, the ethics side of things is going to be a very difficult question, fascinating on the different cultural responses to some of those questions across different countries. Equally fascinating, the fact that a lot of older people seem to be very surprisingly willing to adopt the new technologies, which is also fascinating. I think the other 2 points before I wrap up are really, this idea, somebody mentioned this as autonomous vehicles, not as just a replacement for cars, but as the last mile, that last bit where it really is difficult to get public transport as a solution right to your door. That's where these vehicles may be their most powerful, and that sort of fits into I think the overall theme that we got from the speakers, really, which is this is not about making individual transport modes smart. It's about an entire transport system that needs to be smart. It's about getting people from A to B in the best way possible, and that's going to be a range of different solutions there. So I'd just like to say thank you all for great questions in all the sessions. Please continue the conversation outside and on social media, and thanks again to all our panelists for a great discussion. Thank you.